Hi everybody and welcome back to another video. My name is Richard Seidlitz, I'm the owner of Redpants, and in this video I'll be discussing another riveting topic that us Aston Martin owners like to talk about, and that is window trim. I'd originally filmed this several years ago when I got an exterior black pack, which is a collection of parts from Aston Martin that includes the front grille, the window trim, and the exhaust tips. Now, this package has a preset collection of parts. So the front grille, for example, is the Carbon Edition grille, which is a 6-bar grille that is painted black. It is not carbon fiber. It's called the Carbon Edition grille because it came on a Carbon Edition car. Otherwise, there's no carbon fiber in this grille. The one that is carbon fiber is the one from the V12 Vantage S, which is a completely separate part compared to this one. This is just a 6-bar grille painted black. It has the black window trim, and then it also has black chrome exhaust tips. An interesting thing about these is when I got them, they looked very, very similar to the standard chrome ones, just maybe a couple shades darker, but pretty darn close. Maybe if you just looked at your car and the exhaust tips were dirty, it probably looked the same color as the Zerkotech ones. Over time, they've turned more black, so I was actually reviewing footage for my last video, and I came across a clip where I'd shown the exhaust tips, and they look much more black now than they did when I first got them. So that's just kind of an interesting thing to point out. But anyway, off topic. This is about window trim, so let's talk about window trim. The reason I switched out my window trim for the black ones was because I had already changed out my grille to the Aston Martin Racing GT4 grille, which is part of that GT4 front end, and also I had carbon fiber fender vent strakes instead of the standard chrome ones. And since I am a huge fan of having colors and materials and textures and everything match as much as possible, I decided to get rid of all the bright work on my car. So anything that used to be chrome or brightly finished is now either a black of some sort or black carbon fiber of some sort. And this was part of that. Even though I use the original OEM black window trim from Aston Martin, what a lot of people do here is actually vinyl wrap the window trim. Not only can you go with a different color, mostly black is what people do, but you can get creative, like a brushed bronze. If you do the other trim bits as brushed bronze, that'd be cool, especially on like a blue car. Oh, that'd be nice. Anyway, you can wrap them in vinyl for a small fraction of the price compared to the OEM parts, and that's what most people do. Since I have just about enough, not all of it, but enough footage to mostly make a DIY video, I figured I'd see what I could cobble together and hopefully help some of you guys out. The job isn't too difficult, and you'll only need a few things to do it. A plastic trim tool, a tool to remove T15 Torx bits, some double-sided tape, and isopropyl alcohol or a similar cleaner for removing residue from the original double-sided tape. Before you begin, there's a couple things that you should know. First is that these parts are very thin pieces of metal and they can bend easily if you apply pressure the wrong way. And you will see that at one point in this video because I got a little overzealous with trying to rush to beat daylight while I was filming and maybe bent one a little bit. But hey, I stumble so that you can stride. I think that's how that works. So yeah, just be really careful when you're taking these things apart because you don't want to bend anything and then have it permanently damaged and have to be replaced, which then gets really expensive. Second is that the rubber door seals are the only thing that keep water out of the cabin of your car, so make sure you are extremely careful when removing these if you plan to reuse them. And I am assuming that the vast majority of you that are watching this are going to reuse them. But these rubber seals, especially on these older cars, so my car's a 2007, which is now 18 years old. Oh my God, it's legal. It's legal to vote. To vote, you perverts. And of course, with a rubber seal, if you rip it or tear it or do anything else to it, it's not going to be able to seal properly again, and you will have to replace it or do some really janky repairs to make it work, which I don't recommend, especially given how important those rubber seals are for making sure your car stays nice and fresh. All right, now let's go back to a much younger, fresher, and thinner Rich to see how this job is done. Here's that spot right here where this is pressed on with double-sided tape. Same with down here, double-sided tape. This one right here, you're going to be prying up to remove this as you go along. Here are those slots where the this trim just goes straight in like this. These are little clamp things that kind of just bite down on it. All you're doing is popping in, and they do have a little bit of movement to them. So the easiest way I found to do this is just sort of use a trim tool like so, and get both of them at the same time and pop outwards like that. Make sure you're using plastic and not metal because you don't want to mess up your paint, because you are literally working on paint right now. So there's a few of those up to here. The hardest one though is this one, because while these ones come straight out towards you as you're removing them, this one is going this way, and that can be a little tricky. The top piece up here is what these also come out at you, just as the bottom ones do. So you can kind of get a good idea of how those look right there. There's two of them. And then from here on, you have these bolt holes. You can see them go all the way along. In order to expose those, you have to actually drop this rubber seal right here, which all it does is pull out and then pull back in. It's got this pressure fitment where this will kind of go up and into the metal slot that you'll see on the new one. And you'll see it on the old one as well, as when you pull those off. Okay, this first one, very easy to do. This is held on with double-sided tape, so all you need is a flat or curved trim tool. Make sure you're using plastics, you don't want to damage anything, but all you do is you stick it in there and you gently pry, and you can feel it start to give. You can do this pretty quickly if you want, but the faster you do it, the more risk there is to damaging something around here, especially since we are working directly next to paint. But you can see it's just this double-sided tape that's in here. So all we have to do is pull that off. I'm trying to be very careful because this car has had enough abuse. And there it is, the end result of that. The next one is inside of the mirror arm. It's right here. It's the same sort as that first one that we did. So again, just pop down into it to separate it and it comes right out. There it is. Next we have the door beam, this one that runs along the top of the door. This one just lifts straight up. So you can start at one end with a trim tool and pop in there, and that's it. I mean, you can see how quickly that went, and then just be careful as you go, especially if you want to keep this. But you saw how easily that came up. That is the whole thing. This piece is a little bit more tricky, because there is a crease right here that's actually a seam where these two pieces can separate. This one slides into this one. So down here, down here, we've got clips that we pull out on. If you come in like this, and there's this rubber seal that you can work into, like so you're behind it, and you just pop it straight out. And you just keep working and keep popping, and it's nice and easy. And if you have trouble, you can actually look down in there and see, because a lot of the times you'll think it's separating, but you'll end up twisting the clasp, just like so. Then you can come down further, you do the same thing. That one came out nice and easily. One more right here. Now that this is clear, it can just sit there and be done, and we can move on to the top portion that is above us. Ooh, there we go, that one. The first step to getting this piece out is to pull down this door seal. You can do that with a trim tool. As soon as you get up in there like so, you get that lip, you can start pulling it down. And you're going to be pulling down the entire length of the way, because there are 13 bolts that run along here, and you have to remove all of them to get it out. Once you've done that, there's a pop clip that's on this side of it, close to where that seam is. The seam is for that corner. And then once you've done that, this whole piece can come out. And that is where you'll probably notice that I got a little overeager trying to quickly remove that trim piece, as opposed to doing it slowly, calmly, and correctly. When we zoom in, you can see exactly what happened. There's a mounting tab on that trim piece, and it goes into this metal bracket slot bit right here, and I didn't slide it out before trying to pull it in a different direction, and that's what caused it to bend. So a better way to do this would probably be to release that front trim piece that goes above the door and pull that forward, so that you can also pull that rear trim piece forward as well to remove it from that slot before doing anything else. With the trim pieces removed, we can now start reassembling.
first up is going to be this front corner in front of the mirror. Each one of these is labeled. On the front it has this protective cover, and it also has this labeling that lets you know where it's supposed to go. The right-hand side, RH, is the right-hand side from the driver's perspective.
Make sure you clean the surfaces so there's no chunks of the original adhesives or debris or dust or small children or anything else in the way, so that the new pieces of trim with that new double-sided tape can stick properly.
There is a notch in the rubber seal right here. When it comes down, then there's a notch in the seal. You want to line the metal portion of that up with that notch. And then go ahead and press that in to make sure it's nice and tightly secured. And then you can peel that off. And that is number one. The second one is much more difficult to see. So I'm going to try to show you where it's at. I don't know if I can quite get this in there, but this is what it looks like when you're going down, and I still have the tape on it on the back side, so I can go ahead and put this in place. But that's where it sits, and you want to press it in. That's that backing tape to protect the double-sided tape. So I'm going to go ahead and set this back up. And one little trick is if you pinch the backing or the protective tape like this, you can actually use this as a handhold to stick down into the spot where this goes. It's a neat little trick that helps maneuver it into place. There we go. And then we take the tape off, like so, and it's now down in there. Not that you can tell because we're looking at a black thing and it's the middle of the night now. Next up is the door trim. This one's nice and easy. You have this rubber seal that comes up the top, and you've got this groove that's down here that's going to snap onto this metal piece that's sticking up. So we don't really need the tape on it. We're going to go ahead and peel that off. Lots of tape. And you know which way it goes because it has this notch right here? That is for the window slider right here. I keep forgetting what it's called. That, and it's got dark real quick, so I'm going to try to hurry up with this. As it goes down, it'll start to seat. And in it goes. The hardest part about doing this is getting the seal back in at the front of the door. That front corner can be a bit of a pain. So while you're doing this, keep an eye on where that corner is and sort of have an idea for how to put it back in. If you can minimize how much that moves, that's the best way to do it, because otherwise it's kind of difficult to get in. It actually took me a few minutes to get that right, and I had to approach it from a few different angles with the trim tool to get it pressed in just right.
So unfortunately, that is where my old found footage finishes, but hopefully it's enough for you to complete the job. Just follow your disassembly notes in reverse order and everything should go back together just fine.
Okay, let's do a quick comparison. Here's the original chrome that everybody's used to. You can see it's nice and pretty. And then on the other side, we have got the black. And if we come on out a bit, you can see it just fits the overall look of the car that much more. Since everything else on the car is black, now we have black accents on the windows as well.
So there we go. That's how you remove and mostly reattach all the window trim bits from an Aston Martin V8 Vantage. Of course, other models will be similar, but there may be some differences, so check beforehand to confirm what you're doing before you get started. I hope you learned something in this video and maybe even enjoyed it a little bit. I know I did. And if so, please like, subscribe, and all that other YouTube-y stuff, and check out redpants.lol and redpants.jp for all your Aston Martin parts and information needs. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next video.